In the early 1900s, Colonel Edward Mandell House had this to say in a private meeting with President Woodrow Wilson.
Soon every American will be required to register their biological property in a national system designed to keep track of the people and that will operate under the ancient system of pledging. By such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. Every American will be forced to register or suffer being unable to work and earn a living. They will be our chattel, and we will hold their security interest over them forever by operation of the law merchant under the scheme of secured transactions. Americans, by unknowingly or unwittingly delivering the bill of lading to us, will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent, forever to remain economic slaves through taxation, secured by their own pledges. They will be stripped of their rights and given a commercial value designed to make us a profit, and they will be none the wiser. For not one man in a million could ever figure out our plans, and if by accident one or two should figure it out, we have in our arsenal plausible deniability. After all, this is the only logical way to fund government, by floating liens and debt to the registrants in the form of benefits and privileges. This will inevitably reap to us huge profits beyond our wildest expectations, and leave every American a contributor to this fraud, which we will call social insurance. Without realizing it, every American will insure us for any loss we may incur, and in this manner, every American will unknowingly be our servant, however begrudgingly. The people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office of the president of our dummy corporation to foment this plot against America.
Huh? What this means in as plain English as we can describe is that American citizens, along with Canadians, Britons, French, and every other country that has a central banking system and social network, these people are registered at birth as chattel property. Chattel property is property held as collateral for something. In this case, the registered citizens are being held as chattel property to float bonds for government loans that add to the national debt. Our income tax is the only method by which the national debt is repaid, and our apparent obligation to pay this particular tax comes from being born into this debtor-creditor position. How can this be done to us if we are humans with unalienable rights? Simple. No one has ever made you do anything. We do it to ourselves. Now wait a second. What I mean is that every time we consent to submitting an application for registration, we are giving up a huge amount of rights in return for supposed benefits. Now, upon further research, you'll find that the concept of the corporate person has been reversed, and we are now being treated as the corporations, as non-living persons with no emotions, no rights, and no humanity. No longer are we actually the persons. The concept of natural and artificial person is connected now through a joinder when we interact with any agency residing in the Admiralty Marine Law jurisdiction. How it works is like this. You're considered Admiralty Law chattel product, which is delivered by a doctor who issues a certificate of live birth for the product. Because from the banker's point of view, each birth, each product, has a dollar value. Your parents are told that it is the law to register your birth with the government. When they do this, they are abandoning their baby under Admiralty Law, whereby the government then picks you up as a maritime salvage and creates a company, a strawman corporation, or a fictional entity that has the exact same name as the baby, only spelled in all capital letters. This company is your artificial person. When you interact with police, government, and agencies, by using the name of your company, thinking you're using your own given name, you unknowingly give up your human rights by creating a joinder between yourself and the corporation. You are volunteering to say, I am not acting as a human, I am acting as a corporation. You aren't a person.
You have a person.
Later on in life, when you apply with any corporation, including the government, to get a license, file taxes, get a mortgage, open an account, or even vote, it is not you, the human being, who is being given these things, or the human plugging into these things. But in fact, it's your corporate strawman acting on your behalf. New entities are being created with different titles depending on the version of the corporate strawman that's being used. For instance, your person that is licensed to drive, as defined by the legal system, is a driver. Someone who creates a bank account has created a company called a customer. A voter who registers to vote in any election has created a company called a voter. And anyone who applies for Social Security or social insurance, or ever files a tax return, has created a corporate entity with the same name as him or herself, only in all capital letters, and this corporate person is called a taxpayer. As Edward Mandell House said, the elites would make it hard, if not impossible, to work legally and thus earn a living unless people registered their biological property and submitted to the social insurance scheme. The number given to citizens as a social insurance number or a social security number is used to track where you work, how much you earn, and how many benefits you've earned. How sad that we would give up so many freedoms in return for a few paltry benefits. Of course, the system was not designed to last or to support ever-growing numbers of people who would need support. Ask anyone on a pension if it's what they've expected. Or sincerely question whether your retirement savings are actually going to be there when you retire. At any time, the banks can just close you off from your money, and since they own the Senate, the House, the judges, the lawyers, and the policymakers, good luck with your recourse. Slavery is the legal fiction that a person is property. Corporate personhood is the legal fiction that property is a person. American patriot Aaron Russo, who passed away earlier this year, created a brilliant film called America, Freedom to Fascism, which really explored the origins of the income tax in the United States, even interviewing Sheldon Cohen, the old IRS commissioner and a contributor to the IRS tax code. The premise of the film is that there is no actual law that exists that requires the average American citizen to pay tax on his labor or wages, citing Supreme Court cases where income was defined as capital gains or profits arising from corporate activities.
So I called Sheldon Cohen because he used to be the IRS commissioner, he wrote the tax code, and he was also general counsel to the IRS. He is a true expert, and I couldn't find a better person to answer my questions. So can the government criminally prosecute somebody of information put on their 1040?
Yes.
Right, so doesn't that violate the Fifth Amendment?
No.
But the Fifth Amendment says I don't have to do anything that incriminates myself.
Well, it doesn't incriminate you to put your income down.
But you said before I could be put in jail for it.
Title 26 requires you to file a return.
But doesn't Title 26 have to be in compliance with the Supreme Court decisions?
You're going to take a 1920 case and superimpose it on the whole Internal Revenue Code that was written after it? No, that's not.
I can't believe what I just heard. Rewind.
You're going to take a 1920 case and superimpose it on the whole Internal Revenue Code that was written after it? No, that's not.
Remember he said earlier the Internal Revenue Code was authorized by the 16th Amendment?
The Internal Revenue Code is authorized by the 16th Amendment.
Remember, the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment did not give the government any new taxing power. These decisions have never been overturned. Let's listen further. Can the lower courts overrule the Supreme Court?
No.
How are they putting people in jail today for not paying a tax on their labor when the Supreme Court said they don't have to? Doesn't the IRS code have to be in compliance with the Supreme Court? That's my big question.
This is a waste of time. Because whatever I say, you're not going to believe.
He's right. I don't believe him. And neither should you. He wants us to believe we should obey the IRS code. which is being enforced in violation of the many Supreme Court decisions.